fostering to adoption. Go ahead and tell us about that journey starting at 2005.
I always thought of myself as a future dad. I didn't think I would be married to anyone, but I thought I'll be a single dad with one or two kids. In 97, I met my current husband, Jonathan. We decided to go into the process in around 2003, 2004. So we have two daughters who are siblings, who are sisters. The older one since she was one and the younger one since birth.
Lane Igudin, welcome to the Bookaholic Podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, glad to have you here. Today I have a story that I have not yet told on this channel, and I'm glad to bring it to my audience. And we're going to talk about fostering to adoption. And at first, it may have seemed that it was going to be a natural, just 1, 2, 3 thing, but there was a lot of bumps in the road. And not all of the bumps in the road were necessarily due to the fact that you have an LGBTQ family.
Correct.
Correct?
Yep.
Great. Okay. Yes. So for context for the audience, this starts in and around 2005.
Right.
Okay. Yes. So go ahead and tell us about that journey starting at 2005, and I'll possibly interject some questions here and there.
I always thought of myself as a future dad. Interestingly enough, I didn't think I would be married to anyone, but I thought I'll be a single dad with one or two kids. That's kind of where I started. And then in 97, I met my current husband, my partner, the love of my life, Jonathan, and it took us a while to kind of move in together and establish a home here in Southern California. And we decided to go into the process in around 2003, 2004.
Okay.
We were placed with our first child, who later became our older daughter, in 2005, and in 2006. Sister was born, so she's been with us since birth. So we have two daughters who are siblings, who are sisters, and we've raised the older one since she was one and the younger one since birth.
Wow. Okay. Yes. So my husband comes from that type of background. His did not go per se the way that your situation went, but I fully, at least from a sympathetic side, I kind of understand that foster journey to a lot of degree. And so you would think, kids in the foster system, they want families, they want to be loved, they want to be safe, they want to be protected. And your first daughter, foster child, who is now your oldest daughter, it seemed to be not smooth sailing, but it seemed to be sort of smooth sailing. But then the first bump in the road was...
The way she came to us was a little bit unusual. We were certified, and at that time, there were between 30 and 35,000 kids in the Los Angeles County foster system, which was and still is the largest foster system in the country. Yes. And there are multiple ways to be matched with a child. The way we were matched, even though we were receiving calls for prospective matches, but for various reasons that they weren't quite working out with what we were looking for. Because actually, as a prospective adoptive parent, if you've gone into the foster system with intention to adopt, you can set the limits, you can set the parameters in terms of age, in number of siblings, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of medical condition. So we did, and so the matches that were offering us were not quite what we're looking for. And then the agency, we were certified through an agency, because similar to charter schools, in large foster system, like large foster care, I would say systems like Los Angeles County, there are so many kids that the county cannot possibly take care of all of them. So they contract out a certain number to agencies. We adopted through the county, but we're going through an agency that was sort of a little bit of an intermediary between us and them.
Right.
And so the agency said that there was a child who was placed voluntarily in foster care and left in one of their homes of the agency. The child was not yet available for adoption, wasn't even detained by the court, but
Okay.
her mother put her in there with an intention to take her back, which you can do here in California. I don't know about other states, but I know in California you can do that. But she
Okay.
disappeared. And it's been 5 months, and there's no one to claim the baby. And it really was, I mean, at the time she put her in, she was 7 months. At the time we met her, 12 months. And so she'll be going out for an adoption. And that's how we met our older daughter, Marianna. So we said, yeah, would like to meet her.
Right. Now, so the mother was in foster care herself, right?
Right. And we're not really giving away much of the book because that becomes very clear early on that the mother was underage. She had no family. And she already had a child, and now she was pregnant with a second one.
Right. And that's how your second foster child, now your youngest daughter, came into your life.
Correct.
Yes. So with the mother coming back, that brought about a lot of ramifications, because at first there was no father unknown, but then now all of a sudden there is a father.
Well, it got a little bit more complicated than that, because we still have no information of the birth father of our older daughter. Older child, right? When the mother came back, she came back asking to have the child returned to her, but she hasn't seen her in months.
Right.
And the county said, wait a minute, while you were gone, the child was, and I'm using legal terms here, detained. The baby was detained. And then now the county needed to, I'm using another legal term, dispose of the child. So there's this disposition hearing as to what to do with the child, whether to send her back to the mother that stopped visiting her months earlier, or put her in foster care, which i.e. keep her with the foster parents which already had her, which was us. And that was really only the two tracks. They're called the concurrent planning tracks. So basically you either, the same time as you're planning to return the child to the birth family, you're also looking at the alternatives. What if that won't work out? And we were the alternative.
Well, now let me go back a couple of steps. Let me ask this. So even though you knew that by state law in California that the mother could come back and claim the child, when she did come back and try to claim the child or children, how did that make you and your husband feel, even though you knew that?
I personally thought that the fact that the child wasn't even detained, like I said, we have this process called, I'm trying to remember, I think it's called Petition M300, where basically because of some life circumstance, you cannot take care of your child, you can petition the state to take care of the child for up to 6 months. And you don't lose any rights. The child is not officially in foster care, but you have certain obligations. It has to go through, it has to be approved by the court, because basically the state takes it over. So in the meantime, you visit the child, you fix the problems you have in your life, and then you take your child back before the term is up. But in her case, she visited several times and she was gone.
Gotcha.
But by the time, so to me, it was a red flag that the child wasn't officially in the system. And when the court decided to finally detain the child, they started, basically the foster care was started from zero at that point, even though the child had already been in this, in the system for months, for 5 months, I think, if I remember correctly, 5 or 6 months. Yeah.
Got you. Now, everyone looks at California as being a little bit more liberal type of state than others. But when you all were, and again, like I referenced before, I'm taking a few steps back. When you all were initially in that foster process, did you have any bumps in the road of being foster parents or qualified, quote unquote, to be foster parents when you were an LGBTQ family? Were there any bumps in the road there?
I would say, luckily for us, there weren't. I think we were lucky in that we were the very first generation of LGBTQ parents. to speak of were really kind of riding the wave. And I'm not talking about because prior to, I would say, mid 1990s, especially
Mhm.
late 1990s, if a gay man had a child, it would have most likely been a product of his previous marriage, straight marriage or relationship with a woman. Okay,
Right.
so for gay men to have children, which would be, which would not have, those types of connections, that was new. And some liberal states, including California, began to open up their foster systems, kind of under the radar,
Okay.
to gay men and gay couples. And as we were going into the process, we were like, this particular agency, we got certified. We worked a lot with gay households. It was recommended to us. We joined a gay dad club, and we were very encouraged by what we saw there. So it was like very happening, very exciting time, but we're also kind of like a little bit underground. The first
Mhm.
part of my book is actually called Underground Family, because we're
Mhm.
kind of underground. But it coincided with the rising visibility and the fight for equal rights for the gay community, and so the more that was happening, the more gay families with children were being brought into the light, and that began to create a lot of opposition and the laws being passed, to prevent that before it happens. And so it was a very I described the time like it was like the fly. It was time of a flux. Things were in the flux. So in
Mhm.
some states you had you could foster and adopt. Both parents could adopt. In some states only one could adopt, but not the partner. In some states, you would cross the state line and you lose parental rights. It was that ugly, So
Right.
and it was perfectly fine in many places to deny LGBTQ applicants, the right to adopt. So yeah, so it was very much all over the place. We happened to be
Mhm.
in the right place in the right time, I would say, in many ways. So
Right.
we're also part
Exactly.
of the fight. We weren't just, kind of, reaping the benefits. We were very much, out there marching and doing everything we had to do
Right.
to push for equality. Hmm.
Good. Wonderful. And now, so you're in that fostering process, but then you want to go and adopt. So what made you all want to cross that bridge and go into adoption?
Well, we went into the system with intention to adopt. So basically, we had multiple venues available to us as a professional couple with two incomes. We could have done private adoption, which was available. Basically, when you, I don't know if you're familiar with private adoption. It's a completely different process. When you basically, a woman decides not to keep her baby, but place the child with a family that she chooses,
Right.
and usually an attorney connects you to those expecting mothers who would like to do that. Often you fly them into state, help them with birth expenses, and then there's usually a contact afterwards. That does not involve the state at all. There's no state interest in it.
Okay.
You know?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
that was one route. Another route, surrogacy started to become available too at about the same
Mhm.
time. We could have
Mhm.
done that too, and some countries also did international adoption from some countries was available. Uh,
Okay.
we had multiple routes, but we went into the process with a strong belief that we should really, I mean, why should we go to, X, Y, and Z country to adopt a child when there are children probably within a quarter of a mile that need a home? So that was
Correct.
the belief with which we went into it.
Right.
Um, and probably because we come from backgrounds when I came to this country as a refugee, I'm from the Soviet Union.
Oh,
um, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. Um,
okay.
so I mean, I didn't exactly. People look at me and think one thing, but I came to this country with two
Wa-
suitcases and $100. Okay, that's where I.
Wow.
And my husband is African American. He was raised on a farm in Central California, in
Yeah.
a family with 10 kids. So we both come from pretty humble beginnings.
Yeah.
So like we thought, well, let's welcome one or two, two kids into our family and share what we have. So
Right.
that,
Exactly.
that's where we started. That's where we started.
Yes. 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 So, how was your adoption process? What were there any hills, dales, and valleys there? And how long did it take? You look at old television shows and the adoption process, it would be with cisgender white couples and in the portrayal of the old television show or movie, whatever you're looking at. And it was a dismal process.
Yeah, yeah. I think are you thinking about the movie Instant Family?
Okay.
With Mark Wahlberg, and I think he was playing the lead. Although it's not. I don't know how much of it is actually based on real life. Well, we're not, like I said, we are an interracial couple, and our kids of Hispanic, and our younger daughter is also of color, person of color. So we're not exactly probably what you would expect.
Right. That's what I'm
Uh,
saying. It was even a
no,
dismal process
yeah,
for those folks.
and we had to struggle because honestly, it was just the two of us.
Yeah.
My parents live in Northern California. We're in Southern California. John's parents passed away. Most of his family is in the Central Valley. So it was just the two of us, literally, just the two
Right.
of us,
Right.
doing it. We have friends who have gone through the foster adoption process relatively without painlessly, I would say. With some of them from the placement to the signing of the adoption papers will be just a matter of months. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Our story, and this is why the book is so, I would say, dramatic, and there's so
Hmm.
many twists and turns in it. Took about 3 years, if you count both,
Yeah. It's a long time.
and there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of heart-wrenching, really, situations, and the fear of losing them, especially our younger daughter, who we almost lost 4 times. At
Yeah.
some point, it came so close that you will read the whole situation in the book, where I had to give notice to the daycare that this child we've been raising, or this baby we've been
Yeah.
raising since birth, will be gone gone the following week,
Right.
because of the court. So what we encountered is a system which I think most people are not quite aware of, and this is exactly what I'm trying to expose with my book,
Right.
which is the entire sort of like the setup of this children's court system and the way it works, and the very subjective and very unpredictable way things can swing there. So
Mhm.
that's what it's about.
Yes, most definitely. Now, so how did your switching to feelings and it was a very up and down journey. How did your Jewish faith help you to sustain this whole process?
I definitely grew stronger, and we both come from faithful backgrounds. My husband was raised Pentecostal, and even though he didn't stay in church, he is still very much a believer. And going into it, before the kids, when we met, we're talking about now 26 years ago, we
Hmm.
decided that basically whatever we want to bring into our union, spiritually, culturally, it'll be welcome. And honestly, we're both very, very curious about each other's cultures and very much respectful. We come from very, very rich and old, very rich traditions, historically, culturally, African American, Jewish. So,
Right.
so it was welcome. It was welcome. And so I started to bring kids to, like Parent and Me kind of, classes, and later they started the Hebrew school. At the same time,
Okay.
we also, celebrate Christmas. My Jonathan puts up the Christmas tree, the cheer. There were thing, there was Easter bunny, all that stuff. Or so basically, whatever is important to him was always welcome. Was always welcome.
Yes.
And our
Yeah.
kids grew up with exposure to our both cultures. And I believe, I believe that people will tell you, okay, well, your child is this and that. Yes, you should recognize it, but you should also be proud of who you are.
That's
These
right.
are your children. This is your family. You need to pass on. And honestly, I think the metaphor that I use in the book is that we graft them. They're not ours biologically. They didn't come from us.
Right.
But by raising them, we graft them onto our trees, onto our traditions. Our traditions have very deep roots. So,
Yes.
so now that
Yes.
they're adults, they've been exposed. If they decide to go deeper or try something new for themselves, they know. But at least we expose them to that, and I think they also gave them a lot of safety and security, knowing that they are part of our cultures as much as we are.
Correct, correct. Well, now, how old are the girls now?
They're 17 and 19. Well, almost, I would say 18 and 19. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, they're
Time
grown.
flies.
It was grown. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, that's wonderful to see that, from this time frame, and time does fly. Because I saw, pictures and in your media kit and everything. And I was thinking, well, they're still, maybe preteens. I was not expecting 17 and 19.
Yep.
But you have a wonderful track record of your family and the building of your family relationship. So that's a wonderful thing. So, what advice would you give to folks, whether they're an LGBTQ family or not, going through this adoption process or foster to adoption process? What would you advise them on?
Well, I have a few points. Maybe like I would like to share. One is if you decide to go into the foster adoption process, like you should expect the unexpected because the system works in many different ways, and
Mm-hmm.
basically things may so basically just be open, be open minded, and do your best. Also know your limits when choosing it. If when in choosing a child and stick to them. Like if you know that, for example, you can't really handle more than two or three or one, just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or medically, how much can you handle? We said
Right,
there's certain things we could do, and some things we just knew that we weren't prepared for. And then once you have children, resist projecting your expectations on them. Instead build on their natural strengths because we all come from our own backgrounds and experiences. We think, they'll be like me, they'll do things like, but they won't. They'll be who they are. So you need to
right,
uh, to to really open your eyes to who they are and
right,
what's to bring out with them. You believe in raising children in the faith. And I think faith has been of tremendous support to all of us. It really was the foundation of many things we did. And I talked about being proud of your culture and sharing it with your adoptive children. And I would say, and here I'm kind of getting into maybe something a little bit more controversial, which is respect your needs while parenting. Okay,
yeah,
enjoy being yourself while being a parent. Not just
right,
being a child up. Just remember who you are. Remember
right,
who you are. Maybe you will cut one practice and do things that are important to you. Go
right,
fishing with your friends and then come back, reinvigorated and things. So
right.
yeah, do that. And
Yes, yes.
so also I would say notice those parenting moments. Like notice them. Don't just like run from one thing to the next. Notice when you're with them in the car, at the store, in the playground. All of that matters, and all of that but
Mhm.
passes over time. So
Right,
just be,
exactly.
you
Yeah,
know,
parenting doesn't have to be like official little tidbits. They are free flowing, and you have to take advantage of what's happening in the now.
absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely. And if I may, I want to add one more point, which I think is also very important. Can I?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I would tell whoever goes into this process, okay, remember to take care of your partner
Yeah,
because the heart of the family is you and them. It's you
right.
and your partner. This is where it began, and that's where it should be when you're done with the process. Okay, well, that's where it should be when your child reaches adulthood too. By the way, no matter
Right,
what parents will push you through, you must do all you can to stay together because I've
right.
seen families split. I have by the
Oh,
uncertainty of the adoption process, power struggles, belittling, undermining. I've seen it, believe me. And just
wow.
remember, keep an eye on them, love them,
Yes,
give them more, and never take them for granted.
exactly. True in every circumstance. Of a relationship, definitely. Well, Lane, thank you so much for joining the Bookaholic podcast. And where can my listeners find your book, A Family Maybe?
Okay, so a Family Maybe is available on Amazon and Bookshop and Barnes and Noble, so it's easy to find. And I also have a website, which is my name.com, Lane Igudin, LaneIgoudin.com. So your listeners are welcome to reach out and to see what we're all up to. So
Yes.
I would love that. I would love that.
Well, we certainly will have your contact information, social media, links to the book in the
Yeah.
Bookaholic podcast show notes and in the description box on my YouTube channel. Once
Thank
again, Lane, thank you for joining me today.
thank you for having me here. Thank you, Deidre.